Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, and I am streaming live from my podcast studio at my house now. And I'm super excited about that. And I'm super excited to have Connie Nightingale on my podcast today. She'll be discussing her fitness journey, her family's health journey, and how it transformed their lives, and then inspired her to help others in the same process. So you're gonna hear some great stories of how you don't need to take medicine to treat most diseases. Nutrition, diet, exercise, and sleep will fix most all of our chronic problems. So you don't want to miss out on this one. I'm super excited to have her on. Connie, welcome to our show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So Connie, tell us a little bit about your health journey, your son's health journey, your husband's health journey, and just your whole family, and how it changed your life, and now it's inspired you to help others.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a little bit about it, right? Because it's so in depth, and it's been back and forth really. Like I had this pivotal health epiphany, I guess I would say, right? And then I took it a little too far and had a regression, and then had to come back from that as well. So, but in a nutshell, my child was struggling with ADHD pretty badly when he was young. And having all these problems, and we didn't want to medicate. I'm from a pretty holistic family background. And it got to the point of where it was just so difficult that we finally decided to medicate. And that was probably the worst thing that we ever did. It ended up sending him completely off the deep end. He was struggling really, really bad. Next thing you know, they want him on SSRIs. It was just a really bad story, and I didn't know what to do. I got desperate, and we had tried other things. We tried removing like red dyes and gluten and certain things, and none of that stuff really worked. So we had literally gotten to our wits end with things. It was like awful. How can I get my kids some help? And we actually ended up going to this seminar on kids that have autism, ADHD, other Tourette's, other things on the spectrum. And it was talking about neurodeflection and how that can happen, and how it can be related to digestive health and all sorts of other things that impact us. And at the end, the lady was like, I could tell you guys had a real problem because you guys totally understood everything that I was talking about. And she's like, I want to invite you to come to my practice. I have another speaker coming in to talk about digestive health and how it impacts mood and your mental health. And I think that you guys would really enjoy that. So my husband was unable to attend. I went ahead and attended it. And I remember the whole time she was talking up there, I was just like, wow, I got to change my diet. And we didn't eat terribly. We did not eat fast food. I mean, every once in a while we would eat fast food, but it was quite rare. We didn't go out to restaurants. We cooked everything at home, but everything at home, like spaghetti with the meat sauce, and you'd cook up your hamburger and you'd eat a couple veggies, things that still came out of packages and cans and, stuff like that. Anyhow, so this lady was speaking about how gut health affects your mood, and talked about leaky gut syndrome and all the things. And I remember sitting there listening to her, and I was like, I not only need to change this for my whole family, but I need to change this for myself too. Like I could just see that it would be a huge impact in my life. And I remember coming home, and I told my husband, I was like, we're going to change our diet. We're going to do this GAPS diet. And he was like, are you nuts? He's like, we can't afford to do that. It's all organic. It's all, veggies and super clean foods. And he was thinking cost, and I was like, we can't afford not to. Look at what we're going through, right? And so at that moment, I literally started looking over the ingredient labels in everything in my house, and pretty much every single thing in my house was not something that should have been consumed. It was full of sugar. It was full of preservatives. I started seeing all of these things, and I'm super type A, and when I want something, I get it. I don't mess around. And so here I emptied every single cabinet in my house. We took everything down to the homeless shelter, got rid of every bit of food in our house, and we completely started over with a fresh, clean slate of foods that had to be prepared and did not come out of a package. They were all whole foods, really, really good quality things. And I remember it didn't start out great, right? Because some of these seasonings, you even look at seasonings and they're full of garbage. Yeah, sugar and garbage. And I didn't even know how to season things. And I remember the first meal that we ate, it was like it was GAPS diet is really at first a lot of bone broths with like some meat and some really overcooked veggies and stuff. And I remember we're all sitting at the table and we're like, and the kids are like looking down at their toes, and I was like, well, it's too bad you don't like this, because this is going to be how it is for a while. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody, they knew there wasn't an option, right? I was like, this is what we're eating. This is what you get. We're not going off of this train. And so after a while, though, it was really incredible. Once you weren't eating all of these hyper palatable foods and these things that had all these added flavors and sugar and all the things, how much taste you got back. It was like you almost started to crave real food, real vegetables. But the pivotal part of this is where after 2 weeks of eating this remarkably clean diet, guess what? My child has no issues now, all of a sudden, just magically.
So wait a minute. He didn't need medication to treat his ADHD?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then magically, guess what? My husband's like, my back doesn't hurt anymore. He's like, I don't know why. My back's been hurting me forever. My back doesn't hurt. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we didn't really put the 2 and 2 together, right? But then I had been struggling with like major chronic joint pain and like brain fog, and I just felt awful all the time, and couldn't lose weight. I mean, when I was about 197 pounds, and I was like, my joints don't hurt anymore. Like, I can think, like, all these crazy things started popping up, right? And as the time went on, all of a sudden we all start melting too. It's like, we were not starving to death, but I lost a ton of weight. I ended up in like 6 months losing about 50 pounds.
Well, good for you.
Yeah. And it wasn't like I was trying to lose weight. We were eating tons of food. And let me tell you, the meals that I make are like probably a little more extravagant than most people would cook, because I was trying to provide for my family and cook things that I knew that they would really love, and so that it would just be an easy thing for them. And at first it didn't start out that way, but if you put your mind to learning something, you can figure it out. And I figured it out. And I mean, I made these crazy meals. They were difficult to make, so it did take preparation, because when you start cooking things from scratch, you've got to it takes a little bit of extra time, right? So I would prep, like, whenever I would cook some kind of healthy casserole of some kind, I would cook like 6 of them and I would freeze them. Like, I was going to have that prepackaged stuff that I made, only it was prepackaged by me and stuck in my freezer so that it was available. So I had tons of preparation involved. We were eating these great meals. We all felt amazing. We have people commenting. They're like, man, Blake's been awesome lately. It's like, well, guess what? It basically changed our lives. We did the protocol for 16 months solid. It's an excellent book. I recommend anybody read it. It's called Gut and Psychology Syndrome. It talks about how our gut relates to our mental health. And it basically, that book sent me down this crazy nutrition rabbit hole that I never climbed out of, because now that's what I do for a living.
Right. Well, and we've had a few people on our podcast before talking about how important gut health is, and I think it's revealing to a lot of us the first time we hear it, because like, what? How could gut health affect your brain? But if you think about it, I mean, every ingredient that's meant to be absorbed in our body, or almost every ingredient, comes in through our gut. So how important is that? I mean, it's got to be very, very important.
Absolutely. And then a lot of our chemicals that we need for our mood are also produced in our gut. So if our gut is not healthy, so dopamine, serotonin, if our gut is not healthy, we are already going to be compromised when it comes to mental health or mood, stability, all the things.
Yeah, I think 70% of our neurotransmitters are produced in our gut. Neurotransmitters are, used in our brain to make us feel good. So if you're depressed, ADHD, eat better.
Right? Absolutely. And it's kind of funny, because you and I were talking off camera, and I was like, yeah, it's horrible, because like, now I obviously adhere to a little bit of a different diet. I mean, I eat extremely clean, but if we go somewhere, I'll go eat at a restaurant. I just try to make good choices as far as what I eat goes. I never, ever touch gluten, ever. That's like I have these things that I don't bridge out of and I don't compromise from, because I find that when you start compromising you compromise your way right out of getting where you want to be. So I have some things that are non-negotiables, but you'll go eat at a restaurant and you'll try to pick the healthiest thing you possibly can, but then you still end up with something, I'm sure, right? But you're like, I can't think straight. I'll be talking to my husband. I'll be like, what was I saying? I forgot. Like,
right.
It's crazy how much it impacts you, to the point of where it used to be fun to be like, yeah, I'm just going to eat what I want this weekend or something. And now it's like, no, if we go on a trip, I can't wait to come home because I'm like, oh, I can't eat this way.
Yeah. So tell us, did you ever struggle? You struggle with your weight? Did your whole family struggle with their weight, or was it just you?
It was mostly me. I mean, my kids have always been pretty fit. We're super active. I've always been a really, really super active person as well, like into all sorts of things. Never, even since high school, ever able to lose weight, always on the larger side of things. And so for me, and what I didn't know is I had something underlying going on for a long time. I had Hashimoto's, which I did not know about. And I actually wasn't diagnosed with it until I got done with doing bodybuilding shows. A doctor finally caught it. And I literally would catch myself thinking throughout my life, I was like, is this how people are supposed to feel? Because I remember, like, I'd be in track and field in high school. They tested me for all these things, right? Mono, you name it. They're like, maybe you have mono. No, you don't. I remember that all of the other kids in sports would seem to get conditioned, right? They would get in shape. Their times in track and field would get, faster and faster. I would be doing the same thing. I'd be trying just as hard and I still just sucked, and it was like, I remember always thinking, like, what is going on with this? Why can I not get in good shape, right? Why do I feel awful all the time? I probably was in good shape, right? But I just felt terrible. And even after we got really, really healthy and I obviously lost a ton of weight. I was like, I feel great. I remember looking in the mirror though and being like, whoa, I am like so skinny, right? I hadn't been like lifting weights or doing anything like that. So I had this like heart to heart with myself. I was like, if you want to look the way you want to look, you're probably going to have to start lifting some weights, right? Start moving, start working out. There's no magic pill. I had learned far in the past that there was no magic pill, no diet. You couldn't do Special K or Slim Fast or Beachbody. It wasn't going to get you there. I had learned that the hard way and wasted lots and lots of money in the past with that stuff. And so I literally was like, okay, what do I have time for? What can I make a priority in my life? And literally I was listening to, at the time, I was like reading lots of Jocko Willink and stuff. And he's like 4 a.m., make it work, all the things. Right. And I was like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to set my alarm for like 3:30 in the morning because I had a job that started at 7 a.m. And then I had to get my kids ready. I also didn't want my fitness to get in the way of doing my mom things, So yep. I was like, okay, I'm just going to wake up super early before anybody's awake. And I'm going to start with the most basic program that I know I can get done every day. And in my case, I did like 3 sets of squats of like 10 to 15 squats, 3 sets of 10 to 15 push-ups, 3 sets of 10 to 15 sit-ups, and maybe some lunges or something, right? Just body weight stuff. And after doing that for like 2 or 3 weeks, I started noticing I could feel my muscle in my leg was like getting harder. And I was like, my husband probably got annoyed. I was like, hey, touch my muscle. Look at this. I got a muscle there, yeah, and I mean, one thing led to another. And I went and bought some kettlebells and some dumbbells. And I started having this little 3:30 in the morning routine up in my bedroom before I'd get moving in the morning that I would just go through. And it took me probably like a half an hour. Got to where it would start taking me 45 minutes. Pretty soon I'm on Craigslist and I'm like, okay, well, I need some workout equipment here, clearly. So I'm on Craigslist and I buy that really crummy, like Wider Pro bench press, with the leg extension attachment on it. Yeah. And I clean out my whole office and I got this leg extension / bench press. And next thing you know, I'm doing body part splits, right? I'm getting into this. And I'm working out like an hour a day in the morning, like 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. Well, I start getting super jacked, and everybody's noticing. They're like, what are you doing? Like, first you lost all this weight. Now you've got tons of muscle. Like, what's happening here? What's the secret? I'm like, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning and I eat really good food, Yeah. And anyway, that leads into, I mean, backstory. I always had this super obsession with bodybuilding from a young age because of freaking Arnold in the Terminator. It's all his fault. People always laugh when I say that, but it's the truth. Anyway, so long story short, I was told, my husband was like, I think I want to do a bodybuilding show, you know, and this was before it was starting to get cool on social media, right? And he was like, are you serious? Like, get on stage in like the tiny bikini? And I was like, yeah, I think I could do it, right? So next thing you know, I got a gym membership and I'm trying to step on stage, and I ended up hiring a coach like 6 or 8 weeks out from a bodybuilding show. And
oh, wow.
yeah. And stepping on stage and like totally kicking butt. And then I was like hooked, right? So that's where I said I kind of had to repair my health twice, because it got to where I was like obsessed with bodybuilding, which is not healthy either. I took it from this nice place of health and fitness to this not nice place where you're grinding all the time and, you know, you're over dieted. And so I did a couple seasons of bodybuilding shows, did really, really well. And come the last season, my body just wasn't responding to anything. I was super sick. I felt awful. You know, slowly the stuff I was dealing with back in high school that I mentioned started to come back, right? And I didn't know what to do because no doctor would ever listen to me. And so finally I found this functional medicine doctor, and she actually ran all the right labs for the first time in my life. Found out I had Hashimoto's.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a whole new journey starting after the bodybuilding shows to repair my metabolism, which I knew the whole time I was doing these shows, don't get me wrong, that I was doing things the wrong way. I knew it. I had a coach though. I was trying to be mindful and listen to my coach, because you don't hire somebody to just do it your own way anyway, right? And she was quite convincing, because there was many times I remember where I'd stop in my preps and I would be like, you know, this is not right. I've got to end it, you know? And I would tell her how I felt about things. And she was like a used car salesman. She was like, girl, she's like, I know what I'm doing. I know that this is a compromised time for you, but once we get done with this next show, we're going to reverse diet you. We're going to get your metabolism right. We're going to do all these things. She said all these magic words. It was like, okay, I'll just keep going. Well, she basically, she didn't know that I had underlying factors going on. So we pushed it to the limits, and my body was not happy about that. So it took me about 3 years to get my health back under control after doing multiple seasons of bodybuilding.
Well, and I will say, I think long term, when it stresses your body out to do bodybuilding long term, you know, for that many seasons. If you're trying to stay lean that long, it's really tough on your body. And I think the good bodybuilders that aren't looking to go pro, they know that. So, you know, they'll do one show and then they'll take like 3 years off.
Yeah. Well, and it is most certainly a stressor. And at this point, I had taken it way too far. I was exercising way too much. And if you think about it, stress is stress. I mean, at the time I had a terribly stressful job, a horrible, horrible, stressful job. I had stress in my life going on. I had all of this fitness, like we're talking hours of cardio and lifting, up to 3 hours a day of cardio and lifting sometimes. Eating in a huge deficit. All these things are really awful for your health, right? Not to mention you start stacking all of these fat burners and all of these things to try to stay lean, right? And it was just this terrible spiral, not only physically, but mentally too, because when you get into a sport where you are having to critique your body and you're having to be like, okay, I got to fix this. All of a sudden it becomes, when you look in the mirror, I've got to fix this. I've got to fix that. I got to bring this up. There's not ever this like good point. And so my emotional state also got kind of awful too. I mean, I was about probably a 0 or a 00 size in pants. And I remember specifically looking in those check-in photos with my coach and being like, I look so fat. I remember that. And it was like a 0 or a 00. And it was really, really crazy because like 2 years later, I get these shorts out. I'm cleaning out all my stuff. I was like, I'm never going back to that size ever again. I'm cleaning out all my stuff and I get these shorts out and they were like, I don't even know what fit into those. Like, how in the heck did I even fit into those? And that was a real eye opener that, holy cow, like, I was not only like physically sick, I was mentally sick at that point. And we all think we're going to get, I mean, it's women, especially men too, but they think if they get to a certain size, they'll be happy, but they're wrong.
Yeah, there's a term for that, and I've lost it. I know my brother Shane has talked about it because men bodybuilders deal with it too, and it's you know, it's like a body image syndrome thing where you know, a bodybuilder looks totally great, and they look at themselves in the mirror and they look like crap.
Yeah, and it's bad.
So it's real for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in your weight loss journey, to help our listeners and viewers, because a lot of us do struggle with that. So you started out at 197. Before you started bodybuilding, you were down, when you changed your diet, you got down to 147-ish?
Yeah, I was down even lower than that. I think before I started, over 6 months, I lost 50 pounds, but I lost within a year. I was down to 119 pounds probably.
Oh, wow. So you lost 80 pounds then. And then when you were bodybuilding.
Sorry, I'll put it in perspective for you. I was a size 14 in jeans. And when I got done, before I started bodybuilding, I was like a size 4 or 5 in jeans. So that's how many sizes I lost.
And how tall are you?
5'2".
Okay. And then when you said you looked too skinny and then you started lifting weights, did you start gaining weight?
Yeah, absolutely. I did.
Okay.
I ended up my first season of bodybuilding, like actually bodybuilding, I stepped on stage at about 114 pounds. So I didn't lose a ton. Right. But then in the off season, when I got to like a normal, healthier, I was still pretty dang lean, but a healthier weight, I was about 128 pounds. So,
okay. Yeah.
And I mean, so I definitely recomped my body a lot. And I mean, now I'm powerlifting now and I'm intentionally gaining weight. So I'm about 100 and almost 160 right now, but I look great. So it's kind of funny.
That's kind of where I was going with this, is that, you know, I know we hear it, and I know women hear it especially, and even me as a male, I still obsess over the scale instead of just looking at how I feel and look at how I look and, you know, my lean body mass and all that. But you know, so that's where I was going with this. It's like, so you've been all over the spectrum. You're 160 now, and you're 5'3" or 5'4".
Yeah.
But you look incredible. So, you know, it's more than just a scale. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, well, for sure. And if people want to see a little bit of an evolution, I actually have an Instagram reel somewhere on my Instagram. It's not too awful far back. It compares all my body sizes and pictures and then puts the weights on there, which is kind of interesting to look at because it's funny, when I first got diagnosed with Hashimoto's and got done with bodybuilding shows, I had this major metabolic crash and I gained like tons of weight, like right away, all of a sudden. And I ended up at 100, almost 160 pounds then. And I looked awful, like awful.
Right.
Now I'm almost 160 pounds and I look totally different. Like I still have a 6-pack, you know, like, so it's really crazy. And I do this with my clients frequently as we start to recomposition their body, because you can do that. You start adding muscle. Muscle is weight. You can change the way you totally look without the scale necessarily moving.
Well, or the scale might even move up, but it's hard for some of us to realize that.
Yeah.
And we talk about ideal body weight. I'm guilty of it, you know, talking about ideal body weight, but really what it is ideal body composition. You know, because like you say, like we're talking about with bodybuilders, you know, most bodybuilders, and help me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, most male bodybuilders, when they step on stage, they have like 1 or 2% body fat. I mean, if they're at the, you know, professional level. So now I wouldn't say that's ideal body composition, but most of those guys are 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds over ideal body weight, you know, depending on their class. So it's more than just ideal. It's more than just weight. It's composition, but we all struggle with that. I mean, you know, I'm guilty of it also. So we need to look at all the tools.
Yeah, to add to that, what is ideal body composition? We have this idea in our head of what looks good and what's healthy, but for most people, I would wager even in the high 95 or 95+% of people that think this ideal body composition is actually not something that's even ideal. I mean, we have this idea of, like, for me, when I first started my fitness journey, my idea of ideal body composition was looking like Pam Anderson and freaking Baywatch running across the freaking beach, you know, like we think that that's what healthy and fit is. And then social media puts this persona on, right, where we all see what healthy and fit is. We think that if you're healthy and fit, you don't have cellulite, or if you're healthy and fit, you don't have big legs, you're skinny, right? Or and that's just not the case. Like, we all have a different shape to our body, right? We're not all sticks. No matter, like me, no matter how much you starve me, I ain't a stick. I can tell you that already. You know, there's lots of people, their shape is not what they think in their head it should even be. And it's something that is impossible to actually change. And I know plenty of people that look amazing, they feel amazing, they're healthy, but if they were to walk into Hollywood, Hollywood would be like, oh, you're overweight. What is ideal body composition? And that's what needs to change, because there's a big difference between ideal body composition, ideal body fat, ideal weight, or just what's healthy and ideal, right?
Right. And that's why I want to talk about it, because we get so hung up on even ideal body composition, ideal body weight, whatever, but everybody is so different. So, you know, we have to treat ourselves as individuals. And that's why it's important to, you know, have a personal trainer or a health and fitness coach like yourself. So, you know, you can tell somebody what's realistic and what really is the healthiest for them. Because, you know, for most people, you know, being, you know, on stage at a bodybuilding show is not going to be healthy. And it's not their goal or their end game anyway. So, you know, it's important to get a coach and coach you through those things. So how do you do that, Connie? Tell us how you do that with your clients.
Well, so actually we have a lot of options with my people. We actually even have group meetings together where people can chat, and they see they're all kind of on the same journey, and they see the changes that are happening, and like they're able to communicate with each other, which is really awesome. But I also have to have little pep talks with my clients on a regular basis. We do a lot of photos as well. Rather than taking like weights and body stats and things like that, we're looking for things like, okay, we took these photos, look at how much inflammation is gone. Look at how much smaller your waist is. Look at what your back has done. And a prime example of this is, I actually have a transformation photo somewhere. I'd have to find it. But I had this husband and wife team that came to me, and they wanted to lose some weight. And I set them up with some healthy food choices. They were very poor eaters. They ate terribly. Set them up with some healthy food choices, taught them how to start tracking their macros and things so they could have a little flexibility, but also understand what is in their food, like what has protein in it, what has carbs in it, what has fat in it. Anyway, husband loses like 40 pounds, like so fast, right? And wife is getting really pissed off because her husband is losing all this weight, and she's like, I haven't even lost 10 pounds. And she's so mad, right? Well, at the end, it was like he lost crazy amounts of weight. I think his eating habits were awful, to be honest, because most people, if they lose that much weight, you don't want to force people to lose weight that fast, right? So I think in the course of like 8 or 12 weeks, she only lost 10 pounds, but in her progress photos, the transformation was insane. Like, especially in the back, like her back, when she started, had like lots of obvious rolls and things in it. And when she got done, there was not a single roll on her back at all. None. And I was like, do you see what's going on right here? Right. Like, this is crazy, the changes that you've made. And at that point, she all of a sudden understood, okay, it's not just about what the scale says. I was making progress the whole time, but I didn't know it because I wasn't looking at other tangible factors. And here's the thing. If you do decide to take photos of yourself, you're probably not going to see the difference either. That's where you need a coach or somebody that has an objective eye and can take a look at it and be like, okay, this is where I see changes, and point it out to you. Because a lot of the time I'll show my clients the changes they made, and then they see it. But then if they had looked at that photo themselves, they wouldn't have seen it, because that's kind of part of the body dysmorphia thing, right?
Well, exactly. And you look at yourself every day, so you don't think it's changing. So you need to have somebody with an objective, you know, opinion, just like you said. What I would like, Connie, is I would like you to share those photos with me with that husband and wife team, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And we will put them on our edited podcast of this episode so we can put them in the episode so people can see it. I'd also like to see the reels of your transformation, because we'll put a link in the podcast to that also, because that sounds super cool because of all the, you went from 197 to 118 to 160. And I mean, that's but you still, like you just said, you still have a six pack. So, women especially need to understand that, the scale doesn't mean as much as we put emphasis on it. So there's just so many other factors. And speaking of transformation, you're talking about their back rolls and stuff like this, but as I mean, if you see somebody that's changed their diet and they're getting healthy and they may or may not be losing weight, by looking at so many people now, I mean, even their face pictures, before and after, you look at their faces like, oh yeah, I mean, I can tell you were inflamed. I can tell you're eating like crap. And, I mean, you can just see it in people now, right? You can see when you look at somebody, it's like, even if you don't see their body, you see their face, and it's like, yeah, they're not healthy. I mean, you don't need any fancy tests to show that. I mean, it's just like, nah, yeah, they're not healthy, right?
No, it's so funny. My eye actually now has become so sensitive to seeing inflammation or puffiness, that sub-Q type water that hangs out on people. Like I can just see it, and I can see it the next day. Like, if somebody goes out to eat, I'm like, hey, what'd you eat yesterday? Like I'm so sensitive to it. I've become so sensitive to a lot of things. Like, I mean, I pretty much, when females describe their menstrual cycle to me nowadays, and then we run labs on them, I pretty much can tell if I knew before I ever even saw those labs that maybe they're low on progesterone, or like in my head is just, it's gotten crazy how sensitive I've gotten to all these little factors that are involved in people's health journeys, honestly.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about your website and how people sign up for your services.
Well, so I have a lot of options. My thing is back when I very first started, I could not afford to get a coach or somebody to help me. And I understand that people have financial limitations. So I wanted to make some things that were available to everyone. So like if you see that online programs tab at the top there, I have a ton of like pre-made fitness programs for people that they can do to kind of start their health journey, anywhere from very, very beginner to just starting new habits. Like there's habits challenges in there, things that are affordable for everyone. Because I think the big thing that I see with people when they want to start getting in shape or they want to start making changes is they do all these crazy things at one time, right? And then they get overwhelmed and they're like, I can't wait for this to be done. And so the nice thing about those is they are a roadmap. They get you linked into my app. Literally, it says things to do today. Like maybe it's a challenge that you did. You want to remove gluten for a month and see how you feel. Like that's in one of the challenges. So, sleep, getting quality sleep, removing alcohol. Like there's a lot of different challenges and stuff in there. There's one that starts similar to the way my journey started, which is just doing body weight squats and some sit-ups. And it's just a morning routine every morning, right? There's a lot of different availability there, but what it gives you is a roadmap, because you see so many people, they get a gym membership, they jump in the gym, they work out really hard and test out all the machines for a couple weeks, but then they don't really know what's going on and they just kind of get burned out and they don't have a direction or anybody telling them what to do. So the nice thing about a lot of those is that people can actually go on, follow them, and they are a roadmap. And then guess what? You finish one 8-week block, you can start another that's a little more advanced and is going to keep you growing. So that's an availability. I do custom coaching, which is amazing. I have an amazing community of clients where I can keep an eye on you and we can chit chat back and forth and I can give you those pep talks you need. So I also do that. So it's all health, fitness, nutrition. I look at biofeedback, lab work, all the things, because we want to be optimized in every way. And we can't really, it's so much easier to work with someone after looking at their lab work, believe it or not. Right. So much easier to get them in the direction that they need to go when you really know what's going on. So I incorporate all of that into my custom coaching. I'm also available on consultation only basis as well.
So what do you have a passion for, Connie?
I think helping everybody understand that they can actually make changes in their life without going to extremes, right? You don't need to go buy the biggest, fanciest fitness program. I won't name names. There's a couple big ones out there that basically cost a lot of money and starve you and keep you locked into their programs. I think making small changes, helping people understand that small changes go a long way if you can do them consistently.
Well, and I think that's a great reminder. And some people want to make it too complicated because they see these big fancy programs or whatever out there. But the reality is, just like you said, just like you started, just start doing body weight squats and lunges and push-ups. And
Mm-hmm.
that's better than doing nothing. And then you can progress from there. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need any fancy gym memberships. You don't need to pay any money for that. Those are just simple things. And
Mm-hmm.
as you progress, you might need a coach like yourself to hold you accountable and to, get you into more of the details and to motivate you and show you the progress that you're making. So,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? I probably could have done my little morning routine that I was doing forever, stacked on top of my quality nutrition, and been healthy as a horse, been great,
yep,
never revisited the bodybuilding or having to work on my metabolism, none of
yep,
that. I would have been at the peak of my physical, mental, emotional health, right? Over doing something so small and easy.
right,
And
right.
does it start out easy? No, it never starts out easy, right? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, those first couple weeks of getting into moving my body like that, I was sore, my legs were tired, I was trying to get through those sets of squats and I was like, this sucks, like I may have said some choice words while I was doing it, but it got easier and easier. And now look, I look back on that and I'm like, man, that's a piece of cake, I could easily do that again. and
Right.
and we'll look back on that hard and it won't be hard anymore. And that's what you need to know, is that you can start small. It's the little things that are going to get you there if you can do them consistently.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Connie, I appreciate you being on our show today. You've really helped realize our goal of educating and empowering consumers to take charge of their own health. So I appreciate it. Stay on the line because I want to chat with you after the show, okay?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And stay tuned for our upcoming podcast on Monday, 12:30 to 1:30. We will have Dr. Jared Wallen on our podcast, and he is going to be talking about navigating the traditional healthcare system without health insurance. This is a very big topic right now. And as you guys know, I've talked about it many times before, but you might be surprised at the answer because health insurance isn't always what you think it is. And navigating the traditional system without health insurance can actually save you money, believe it or not. So you don't want to miss out on that. Dr. Jared Wallen, 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, on my personal Facebook page and the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy YouTube site. And we are streaming live on Twitter and LinkedIn now. So follow us there and stay tuned. You don't want to miss out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.